Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you are joining us in the world from. Welcome to another high vibe conversation. I am your host, Shel Shapiro. Joined with me today are these lovely high vibe women and our special guest, Paula Burt. And today we're going to talk about codependency. So I'm gonna ask the maybe obvious, not so obvious question in the room. Paula, can you tell us what is codependency?
Yeah. So from my point of view and for me, it's when you're getting your okayness from another person, another source. And that becomes like a twofold space of meaning there's like a drainage of energy from one person, and then the other person, you're actually taking away their power by allowing them to feed off of you. Like that's and then when I was going through, I did a lot of EMDR for a while, and during that time frame, I was reading this book called Codependency No More. And I remember being in counseling with her, and she was like, "Are you reading the book Codependent No More?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "Stop," because when you're on one particular side of codependency, it's like I was trying to find everything to make me wrong so I could stay in, so I could fix something that wasn't going to ever be that particular one wasn't ever going to be fixed.
That's definitely a lot to unpack there. But we're excited to have you on this journey with us today. And we're excited that you've been able to navigate the codependency that you had been feeling, and be able to share that story with the world. So my next question for you is, what did that look like for you? How did codependency show up in your life previously?
So I think it started like with most people, it started with traumas and then becoming the caretaker and becoming really it starts at like with the trauma happens and not being safe in our body and having to make the environment around you safe in one way or another, which a lot of times we call that like being empathic, reading a room, reading a person, and trying to adjust them to make yourself safe versus just viewing them for who they are in their full range and deciding, is this correct for me or is this not correct for me?
Ooh,
Um,
yeah. I've definitely often mixed those up where I'm channeling my empathy, and seeing how like I can almost be that gauge to keep everybody else okay.
mhm.
And so I adjust myself accordingly so that everybody else feels fine and happy and at peace, even if I'm like trembling or like high anxiety, high tense situation inside. I used to try to mask that all the time. So I definitely know what that's like and can mix that up. Um,
And what happens for me is like some of us have some major wake up calls. That was me as well. And trembling inside is I do a lot of somatic practices now. That's your body saying this isn't okay. So what was like my wake up call, one of the many, the major one was I woke up one morning and I go to brush my teeth and I spit it out. Like, you're like spit and like it just like rolls down the side. So my face is not completely symmetrical anymore because I had what was called Ramsay Hunt's. It's kind of Bell's palsy, but medically speaking, this side of my face still shouldn't work. So it shows up like those things show up in our bodies and then it becomes disease because we're like literally stifling ourselves. We're putting masks and walls and like, I'm going to make myself fit in this box no matter what. So that way I can keep some sense of control and safety. And then it became like this journey for me of learning how to open up and allowing things to flow through and then choosing what's good for me and what's not good for me. And it hasn't been easier than the other choice though. Like short-term pain, if you will, from working through those traumas and those situations is long-term freedom for these type of situations. Yeah.
Jenny, I see you came off mute. You know all about making hard choices. What's your relationship with codependency?
Well, I've definitely been on that journey of becoming aware. And what I started noticing was that my thoughts were always with his person. You know, I was almost never in my sphere of control. I was never present with my own opinions, my own emotions. If he was having a good day, then I was having a good day. I was, looking out to check how is he doing? Okay, then I'm fine. So just what you're saying. And my mind goes to so many people around me who saw this, and I was also holding a mask, and my brain was changing too. Like, it does change your brain, the way that the way that you function. But I'm thinking of the people around me who have been approaching me afterwards saying, like, we knew something was going on. And they were kind of, looking to find a way to get behind all of these masks. And, it's hard to see someone in this state. So, Paula, like, how would you speak to the people who have someone around them that's suffering from codependency?
Yeah, I think the best thing that we can do is love them exactly where they are. And then you'll know when the time is right to like offer little tiny suggestions, like, or invitations. Cause I am so thankful for the people in my world that did that. A lot of times when you're in a codependent relationship, you become so like self blame, self blame, self blame, self blame. So those people that can put you back in your power are like, those are your people. And so it's a two-way street of like choosing who we want to be around. And then the people who are around us, or if you know someone who is, because really it's manipulation, like really it's massive manipulation. So if you're around the person who is in that, just keep on putting them back in their power. I don't know if that makes sense at all. Like I'll say it a different way. So if a person is like, oh my gosh, this and this and this, it's like, a lot of times I'll reframe the question. So it's like, okay, what's your truth? What do you want? Because you can tell when a person is completely always focused on the other person, like completely always focused on the other person. So then like reframing it for them of like, okay, let's call your power back and ground into that. And what is it that you desire? What do you want? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And Jenny, you experienced that with your sister-in-law, which was, you've written about that in your books, really. So can you quick call up some of the questions? I love the questions.
Absolutely. Yes. One of my sister-in-laws stand out in the way that she helped me reconnect with myself, or she supported me as I reconnected with myself. And she was just being super genuinely curious as to how I was feeling. She was just like, whenever my mind wandered, like she would bring it back to me. She was amazing. Like she was cooking, she was keeping the kids happy and kept on asking like, well, how do you feel about that? What do you want? Does that make sense to you? And that really cleared my mind. And, it gave me normal reactions to things also. And it was very helpful. And also a colleague pointed out that, Jenny, whenever I'm asking how you're doing, you're starting to talk about this other person. So yeah, that was super helpful.
And I love that in the comment sections, Mr. Neville, he said it's a good distinction and invites person suggestions. And he was one of actually my first, like he's been a lifelong friend of mine. And he was one of those people, particularly coming out of the church, that would just like ask a question here and there. Or like, Paula, what do you think about this? When you're so used to being in this framework, in this petri dish, this environmental petri dish of, you don't know what you're doing. I know what's best for you. Like how many petri dishes in society says that to us? Like, don't trust yourself. I know what's best for you. Don't listen to your body. I know what's best for you. There's such this like pulling from personal power, like a leashing almost of our personal power constantly. And that's a societal frame that gets to change. And I love that it's changing a lot currently, but it's like it's like these programs and people and places where you go, where you are asked questions and you are like said, what does this mean to you? Like, it doesn't matter what I think about it. Like, I don't care. Like, what does it mean for you? Like, I want to know your heart. What does your heart say about this? And that is putting people in their power versus the codependency and taking the power away from them. I'm at a point in my life now where it's really hard to be in a arena that isn't that, which is so beautiful. Like 6 years ago, I would have thought like I was a mess, and I would have never. I knew it logically that this is possible, but I didn't know like energetically or thought that I would be able to actually embody it. Yeah.
There's no turning back now, right?
There's no turning back.
You can't put the curtain back once you've seen behind it.
That's it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Stina, what's your codependency experience? Or what's coming up for you?
Yeah. Paula mentioned Codependent No More, and I remember picking up that book in like a Barnes and Noble, and there was a list in it. I didn't buy the book. There was like one list that I remember seeing, and it opened my eyes to like what codependency actually was. So I just didn't realize like all of the different components that kind of like happen when you're in a codependent situation. And I can totally see, like Paula said, like the tendency to, as a codependent, read about codependency and then keep trying to fix yourself. Like it just feeds like the vicious cycle of codependency. And then if you add in like anxiety and a little bit of like rumination from OCD, like you just have this like inescapable like loop of trying to fix yourself in order to basically control other people, which is what I've seen codependency as. It's this very kind way to control other people. And it's usually to diffuse things and make them more safe and secure. So it's not like we're controlling people in an aggressive or not really like manipulating them to actually benefit us or, get the leg up. It's just like we want peace, we want calm, we want joy, we want happiness, but it's a fear of all of the other like energies and emotions and feelings that can come up: anger, frustration, disappointment. And so we are avoiding those or trying to diffuse those feelings and situations in relationships and only feel like the good, calm things because we don't feel safe otherwise. And so a big thing for me with codependency was learning that I anticipate other people's needs, like to the extent that I anticipate other people's needs, because it's definitely very human and normal to like think of the people that are close to you and that you love and want to anticipate that to an extent. But when your daily routines and your decisions focus on anticipating everyone else's needs to the exclusion of anticipating your own, then that's when it really becomes a problem. So it's something that I've been aware of for myself is when I see myself anticipating other people's needs, I have to like take a step back and be like, is that actually like I'm doing that because I want to do that? Like, am I doing my partner's laundry because I want to support him and make sure that his work clothes are, work uniform is clean and that's going to actually bring me joy to do that for him? Or am I feeling like if his work uniform isn't clean and he's not going to clean it and then he's going to go to get the uniform and it's going to be dirty and he's going to be mad and then I'm going to feel like it's my fault and feel like I should have done that, then it becomes like that's where the cycle starts. Versus I can do the laundry or not do the laundry, right? Because if I don't do the laundry, then maybe he will be upset that it's not clean. But like he didn't ask me to do it. It's not an agreement that we have that I am responsible for that. And so those are things that are huge, I think, for coming out of codependency is like having like clear mental boundaries with yourself so that you're not taking on responsibility, like imaginary responsibility, and being okay with like waiting for someone to ask you for help, being okay with other people feeling frustration and disappointment and anger about things that you could have done or you could have helped, but you were focused on your actual like responsibilities and commitments, and letting other people figure out their own problems. Like that's, I think that's a huge thing that I've seen my friends I have a lot of friends actually that have gone through divorce and court cases of divorce and co-parenting through divorce. And I'm like, let it be his problem when they're trying to fix things in the co-parenting relationship or in the custody arrangements. And I'm like, that doesn't sound like your problem. That sounds like he has created a problem or he has a problem and you are anticipating how to fix it. You're trying to change the way you're doing things to make it okay. Like, let other people's problems be their problems. They can be responsible for them, solve them, ask for help when they need it, and like it will be okay.
There's this really cool drama dynamic, and it's like hero, victim, villain. And I did this talk in Denver probably about, I don't know, like 7-8 months ago. And it was really about stepping out of the hero world and role and like rescuer. And because while we're trying to seem like it's nice to like keep everyone's emotions in check, it's actually like keeping them as either the perpetrator or the victim. And it's an interesting blend in it all, but it is really about like just taking off the hero's like cape and saying, this isn't my responsibility. And by me trying to fix everything, I'm actually taking them out of their power. So one of the shamanic tools that I love is like visioning people up. So, and I think you had so many beautiful points there about like emotions. So where I started in all of my journey was allowing my emotions to come through. And it's one of the things that I do with my women's retreats. Like, it's like, cool, you want to yell and scream because it needs to come out of your body? Yeah, let's come to the fire and do that. Like, you look at all these like ancient principles, and it's like stomping and singing and feeling, particularly as women, and men do it in a different way. Like, there's so many, like, we are humans who have emotions. All those emotions are okay. But if you look at people who struggle with like codependency a lot, they were very shut down as children. Don't cry. Like, don't laugh too loud. Oh my gosh, how many times in my life have I been told not to laugh so loud because my laugh is like so loud. Stifle, 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 right? Like, put a lid on it, put a lid on it, put a lid on it. To where your body's like, like you were saying, Shelly, that you're like, you felt it vibrating inside. And it's like it becomes a pressure cooker of all these emotions. So then we're trying to control everybody else's emotions so we don't feel that pressure cooker. When really what gets to happen to empower yourself is to take the lid off the pressure cooker. Feel your emotions. I have had so many soul cries this year with what the world's going through. I cry sometimes in my bed and I don't even know why I'm crying. I'm like, my heart is just like breaking for some things, but I don't have to label it anymore. Like, I used to want to like figure it all out. Where's this? And I'm like, okay, my body's feeling an emotion of sadness, and cool, it's just gonna flow through versus keeping it in. And that's one of the things, like, and how to break this cycle, like with the next generations of our children. So like when I left, like particularly like my marriage and the religion, like I opened up to allowing my children to feel too. Meaning if they were angry, yeah, let's go hit something in the backyard. Let's go chop some wood. Like instead of like, don't cry, like be quiet. But so it's giving permission versus tampering down. Like I'm not trying to control, I'm not like, they're not the perpetrator for having like emotions here. I'm not the victim of them for them being angry. Like it becomes like this weird like intertwining sometimes of that hero victim villain cycle. So if we can just keep on energetically stepping out of that when we're dealing with people, like it helps so much to create like that peace and freedom internally, so then we can be clear in what our truth is and what isn't ours. Okay, cool, this isn't mine, I'm gonna do this. Like this isn't mine, I'm gonna do this. Yeah.
And I love the honesty in all of this. Part of my healing has been reframing things and calling matters by their true name. And it's such a relief and such a freedom to understand that when I am being honest, I am also grounding other people in reality. I'm giving them a fair chance to make, decisions based on what truly is. And also like reframing responsibility. I felt super responsible. I was taking responsibility for 2 people, and including myself in my love and making that complete helped me understand that I was not being responsible for my own well-being. So it is truly, healing in this is truly something that serves everyone.
And this just makes me want to cry right now. Like, it's like, I love this. Like, this is like celebration time for me. And that I think like and celebrating this journey and the steps out of it. And because that's really what gets us out of the label and looping in it too. Like, I don't consider myself codependent anymore. Like I am very empowered. Like there's a part of me that feels like even saying that a little bit, but it's so, I feel like I do a really good job now with deciphering. It's still not always easy. Like doesn't mean it's always easy. Like I have my tools that I go to. Breath work is amazing and awesome. At times. But yeah, like I just like there's when these pieces come in and I'm hearing this talk and like this movement through versus being stuck in, my heart just like opens and I'm like, yes, like yay. So yay. Like that makes me super happy for you.
So many amazing things to unpack right now. I actually am learning something about myself right here in this conversation. I've always thought of myself as a people pleaser. And so now that I'm a recovering people pleaser, I'm recognizing through this conversation that I never described myself as codependent. I never realized that that's never a word that I used for myself. And I'm realizing that the people pleasing tendency I had definitely correlates and overlaps with codependency, because I was doing it to keep everybody at bay, to like mitigate their reactions to how I would do something. So I would do something preemptively so that they wouldn't react a certain way, or because I was afraid that they would react a certain way. And the way that this showed up for me in my previous job was to your example of the hero, the villain, the victim. Like I definitely felt like the victim a lot. I was called out as the villain. Like, why am I always such a bitch and yelling? But I wanted to be the hero. Like I felt that from all different angles, because I wanted to be the one that saved the day. But then I was resentful for the way that I took on all the responsibilities to fix every problem and navigate everybody's like conflicts and problem solve the way through it. And like, so I wanted to be the hero. I wanted to be recognized as the hero, but then I was resentful and felt like the victim because nobody else stepped up to the plate. I took on that responsibility and that accountability for everybody else so that they didn't have to. And it became like a very cyclical for me. And I'm also recognizing that the way that this showed up in previous personal relationships again, where I felt like I was people pleasing. I was definitely in like different forms of abusive relationships, and narcissism, and all the other conversations that we've had previously within this group of women. But from a codependent perspective, like I was always doing the chores, always doing the cooking, the cleaning, like making sure that all the things were done for him so that he could come home and just pop open a beer and have his friends over and play games and like act like he was a kid 24/7 and have no responsibilities. But if I didn't do those things, I was afraid that I would get like smacked or have something thrown in my direction or like verbally assaulted or any physically assaulted, like any of the things. Like, so I did all those things constantly to keep him at bay and took any responsibility off of him, even though I really wanted him to step up and do those things. And that's just one example from a work perspective and from a relationship perspective where I was feeling those things. So now that I recognize them, I think a biggest thing for me was also, and this is in my book, we talked about how I don't like ultimatums. And I had some friends that I didn't talk to for a really long time while I was still getting out of this relationship, this same personal relationship, because they gave me an ultimatum. We don't like the way he's treating you. We don't like the things that he's doing. We want better for you. You deserve better and you need to get yourself out. And then what they said was, if you don't leave this relationship, we can't have anything to do with you anymore. We'll cut off communication. And I hate anybody tells me to do something, I'm immediately, if you don't give me an opportunity to think about it for myself, I'm going to go in the other direction, no matter whether I believe what you're saying is true or not. And so for me, even though I knew what they were saying was ultimately true, I hadn't processed it for myself. And so I cut them off and I stayed in that relationship way longer. And had I been at a more concrete place to be like, okay, I recognize that what you're saying is true. I do need to get out. I do need something better. How do we do this? Can you help me navigate this? Or had they asked the questions or framed it differently to be more supportive, I would have been probably more open to stepping back into my own power. And so looking back, 2020's hindsight, but like, they are now my friend. Like, I've reignited those relationships because I realized that they were coming from a good place, and maybe I just didn't receive the message the right way. It wasn't framed the right way for me at the time. And I can clearly say now, like, yeah, I can no longer go back to relationships like that, personal or professional, where I feel like I need to be the hero and save the day and come to the rescue all the time. Let somebody else come to the table. Let somebody else stand up and do what they need to do. And that feels so good. So yeah, just happy to share my experiences through it too.
And celebrating that, right? And if you don't mind, like in languaging, I do this too. It's like it's not a wrongness. You experience vast contrast and you stayed until you figured it out that not to stay anymore. And that is like, we are all on our own timing. That's why it's like a celebration when anything like, yay, because we really do, like, people can be there and help us and support us, but we really each get to like come into our own. And it's kind of like that saying, you can't, was it, I don't know, like the water, and you can't make a camel drink water, you can just lead him. I forgot what the saying is now, but yeah, we all have our stories. That's what makes us like so beautifully human. And one thing, when you were speaking, I was thinking about like masculine and feminine dynamics of like, when a woman is in her, what I would call power and divinity, she is a pure magnet. Like, I don't have to, like, I don't try to do things now. I don't know if that makes any sense how I can speak to this, but like a man, when he is in his purpose, he is in service. So like, he is actually in service and enjoys serving. Like, the men in my life that I know that are in their purpose and power, it's like, how do I get to serve you? Like, our society has this so flipped backwards, and the woman is so in her magnificent, and she can't be in her magical, magnificent power if she is drained. If she is drained, there is no well there. So that is like, that's one of the beautiful parts about like calling your power back and coming into it, is like really flipping that magnet back on and really finding what you enjoy, what I enjoy, what is real and true for me, not out of someone else's concern or of giving. Like, what is it that I enjoy doing? I'm going to go do that so I can be in my power. My well of magnificence is flowing and shining. And then it's just attraction. Like, it's just the law of attraction at that point. And then men are ultimate. Like I love being around like kings now. It's like literally like so fun. It's just service. Like, and they're kind and they're leading from their heart, but they're savage if they have to be. Like, and that's power, is knowing I have this like rawr in here, but I'm choosing to serve from my heart until the call to take up arms might need to protect this woman and these children. Like, that is what a true man is. Like, to me, like, he is in service of life. Who's the giver of life? We birth stuff. So it's so flipped right now in society, and it's destroying our men as equally as it's destroying our women. Like, I do quite a bit of work with men and bringing them into their power, because that's what we need so much. Like, there's all kinds of caveats there too, right? Sorry, I just went down like a whole nother road. Oh, thank you, Micah.
We're so open to you going down a rabbit hole if you need to, because we're all queens here, standing in our power once again, and it's a journey, right? We've all gone through certain things, experienced things differently. A lot of us can relate to similar stories or experiences that we've each had, even if it's not quite the same. And hearing other people share their stories and experiences opens our eyes to seeing things from new perspectives. As I shared moments ago, like that I learned that it wasn't just people pleasing, it was codependency too. And now that's something that I can take with me as part of the language that I use to talk about it. And I think that's just as powerful, to have more language to describe the things that we want to say.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Mm-hmm.
Linda, you haven't shared so much today. What's coming up for you? I'm going to put you on the spot for a second.
Oh, no, I don't feel on the spot. It was perfect timing, because I'm still like learning all these things and unpacking, especially my relationship with my mother, and what is it, and why, and all of it. So it's taking me to the mother wound. And I know Paula can totally speak on that, for I'm going all kinds of rabbit holes today. And thank you for anything that you felt was a rabbit hole, because it wasn't. We just are all connected soul to soul here, and whatever comes up, and we go there. So absolutely. Yeah. I remember Paula, when you shared about your therapist and talking about codependency no more, and like, no, stay away from that one, because
Stop it.
Who can you fix? Yeah, that's really, really powerful. That's super, super important information is what I'm trying to get out into the world, because like, who knew, right? There's all these little things. And we're all so used to like living by old wives' tales and stuff. And now in the energy of the new world, we're really stepping into what is true for me, and then me curious what is true for you, and then across the board, what is just like duh, what it just works that way. So it's really interesting stuff. Thank you.
I loved everything that we've shared today. Oh, I don't want to cut you off. Say
go for it, Paula.
I was
You
just
want to talk about mother wounding?
Well, I was just going to tell it. I was like, I got to see Linda for a quick minute. 3 weeks ago? I just ran a retreat and stopped off and said hi. And this is how the synchronicities work. Like, one of my sons asked me for stones, like from where we were at. and I had forgot them at the retreat center. And then I go to say hi to Linda, and she's like, well, I just like grabbed these stones from my yard for your boys.
And I don't know if it's, you know, I got kind of enough for all three, but it didn't really feel like three. It just kind of felt more like one.
It was JD. Yeah, it was my little guy. So it's like that's where I talk about magic, and really it's just synchronized events that you can't really explain with human words sometimes. We're just like ding 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 ding. And it's fun when that becomes normal. And when you're not looping in trauma or trying to figure everyone else's trauma out, you're just able to observe situations, be with all of life, let life work through you. That becomes normal. And that is like when it becomes really fun to actually live and be in joy and have and play.
Yeah. And Stina and her boyfriend are just very connected. They don't even have to talk, you know. And I forget what year it's be, like 20. What was it? I don't know. Cindy, do you remember this from Human Design, like 2027 or something? We're all going to be telepathic. We're all going to, you know, just be able to have conversations without having conversations. So, yay for the energy of the new world. We can find some peace in the world.
Yeah.
Stina, you're off mute. I don't want to cut you off.
That, very quick comment. She said that Foy, my fiance, and I are telepathic, and he calls it verbal telepathy. Like talking is verbal telepathy. And he'll like tease one of my kids a little bit, you know, if they're like can't get the words out or what they're saying. He's like, your verbal telepathy isn't working. Cute.
I love that. And I love being able to be present in more of the moments where we can feel that magic, and just have that connection from each other and feel it, feel the energy, feel the soul, all the good vibes and the words that, you know, I like to bring it all together with all the vibes. So thank you, Paula, for joining us today. I've learned quite a bit. So many people here joined today. Amazing comments from Aisha, Mr. Neville. Sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. Terry is here. Yay, Terry. Amy Perman was here. Susha, thank you everybody for joining. If you're watching the replay, please feel free to leave us comments or questions. We will answer them all. Use #replay so that we know where you came in on. And make sure to follow along with us. We'll be back next week for another high vibe conversation. Until next time, bye for now.